Hello everyone. Welcome to my new video. In this step-by-step tutorial, we will learn web development with Django. A high-level Python web framework that encourages rapid development and clean, pragmatic design. Built by experienced developers, it takes care of much of the hassle of web development, so you can focus on writing your app without needing to reinvent the wheel. It's free and open source. Alright everyone. We've successfully installed Python and Visual Studio Code. Now, let's jump into creating our first Django project. Open Visual Studio Code. On the left side, you'll find the Explorer window, where you can manage your project files and folders. Before we begin, we need to choose a dedicated folder to store our project files. Click the Open Folder button and select a location for your project. For this example, I'll create a folder named Django_website to store my project files. Now, let's install the Django framework. Open the terminal by going to View a Terminal. In the terminal window, type the command pip install Django and press enter. Django will be installed on your system. Note, if this is your first time installing Django, it might take a few moments depending on your internet speed. In my case, Django is already installed, so you'll see the installation path instead. Now that Django is installed, let's create our project. In the terminal window, type the following command. Django admin start project my project name. Replace my project name with your desired project name. For example, I'll use Django Web for this project. Press enter. Django will create a new project directory with that name in your chosen working directory. In the Visual Studio Code Explorer, you'll see your new project folder, Django Web in this case. Inside this folder, you'll find a file named manage.py. Manage.py is a special command line utility for your Django project. It acts like a central hub for various tasks you can perform on your project, such as creating new projects and apps, running the development server to test your application locally, managing your database, migrations, applying changes, running automated tests, executing custom project-specific commands. We'll use manage.py throughout the development process to interact with and manage our Django project. Now that we have our project set up, let's create our first app. An app in Django represents a specific functionality within your project. Think of it as a building block. You can have separate apps for things like a blog, a forum, or a user management system. A Django project can contain multiple apps to organize your website's features effectively. To create a new app, make sure you're in your project directory. You can use the cd command in the terminal to navigate there. For example, cd Django Web # replace Django Web with your project name. Once you're in the project directory, use the following command to create a new app. Django admin start app name. Replace app name with a descriptive name that reflects the app's purpose. For instance, if the app handles user login and registration, a good name might be users or authentication. In this example, I'll create an app named MyWeb. Once you press enter, Django will create a new directory for your app within the project folder. Let's look at the functions of these essential files in a Django project directory. init.py. This is an empty file which is typically used in Django apps to treat the directory as a Python package and allow importing models, views, and other components from the app. asg.py defines an ASGI, asynchronous server gateway interface, application entry point for running Django applications in an ASGI-compatible web server like Daphne. settings.py the heart of your Django project configuration. It holds crucial settings that govern various aspects of your application, such as database connections, secret keys, installed apps, template paths, static and media file settings, authentication mechanisms, email configuration, caching settings, debug mode. Without a properly configured settings, your Django project won't function correctly. urls.py defines the URL routing for your Django application. It maps incoming URLs to corresponding views, functions that handle user requests, within your app or project. Whiskey.py defines a WSGA web server gateway interface, application entry point for running Django applications in a traditional WSGI-compliant web server like Apache or Nginx. This is the standard way to deploy Django applications on most web servers. Now, let's break down the common files you'll find in a Django app. init.py. This is an empty file which is typically used in Django apps to treat the directory as a Python package and allow importing models, views, and other components from the app. admin.py defines how your app's models will be displayed and managed within the Django admin interface. This allows you to create, edit, and delete data records through the admin panel. apps.py provides a central location to define application configuration for your Django app. While not strictly mandatory, it offers a convenient way to customize certain app-related attributes. models.py defines the data models for your app using Django's model classes. These models represent the data structures that your application will store and manipulate. You might define models for users, products, blog posts, or any other data relevant to your app's functionality. tests.py contains unit tests to ensure the functionality of your app's code, models, views, etc. Writing tests helps prevent regressions and maintain code quality. views.py contains Python functions that handle user requests, HTTP methods like GET and POST. These functions are responsible for processing the request data, interacting with models to retrieve or update data, and generating the appropriate response, e.g., an HTML template, a JSON object, etc. You might define views for displaying a list of products, creating a new user account, or updating a blog post. Let's see our project in action. We can use a built-in development server to test our Django application locally before deploying it live. In the terminal window, type the following command: python manage py run server. This command starts the development server. You'll see a message with a local URL, usually http://127.0.0.1:8000/, where you can access your project. Tip: press Ctrl or Command on macOS, and click the URL in the terminal to open it directly in your web browser. If everything is set up correctly, you should see a congratulations message in your browser. This confirms that Django is running and your project is accessible. The development server is a great tool for local testing and development. You can make changes to your code, save them, and refresh the browser to see the updates instantly. Now, let's create the foundation for your website's content, templates. Templates in Django are HTML files with a special twist. They can combine standard HTML with Django template tags to dynamically generate content based on data from your application. This allows you to create reusable layouts and elements while keeping your HTML clean and organized. Create a folder named Templates inside your project directory. This is where you'll store your Django template files. Within the Templates folder, create a new HTML file named index.html. This will be your website's homepage for now. If you're comfortable with HTML, you can write a basic message to display on the screen. I've included some sample code in the video description that you can use as a starting point. Place this code in your index.html file. Before we proceed, there's one more important step: registering your app in the settings.py file. The settings.py file is the central configuration file for your Django project. It contains various settings that define how your application behaves. One crucial setting is installed_apps. This tells Django which apps are part of your project. Django comes with a collection of built-in apps like user authentication, an admin panel, and more, which are already included by default in a new project. You'll likely create custom Django applications for your specific project features and functionalities. These must be registered in installed apps to be recognized by Django. I have created my app with the name of my web, so I will register this app in the installed app settings. After registering the app, the second thing we need to do is URL mapping. The project level URLs.py acts as the central hub for handling all incoming URLs for your Django application. It provides a single place to define how URLs are routed to the appropriate handler functions, views, in your project. First we need to call the include method from Django.url. Now we will add our appname.urls file in order to handle the app URL requests. In my case, my app name is my web. So I will include myweb.urls in URL patterns setting. But we don't have any urls.py file in our app. So we need to create one in order to register app level URL patterns. You can create a new file or you can copy and paste the project url.py file. We don't need this admin module, so I am going to delete this. We need to import all the functions and classes defined in the views.py file within the current directory, so we can import like this. From .import view. Before adding a URL pattern, we need to define a function in our views.py file, which will render and return the HTML file. Before adding a URL pattern, we need to define a function in our views.py file, which will render and return the HTML file. We will define a function with the name of home and it will take request as argument. This function will return the home.html file after rendering. Now we need to call this function in urls.py file to display the content of the index.html on the front end. We also need to remove the admin path from URL patterns as we don't need this anymore. We can call any function from views.py file by using views.functionName. We have created a function with the name of home, so we can call this function using views.home. And give this URL pattern a unique name of your choice. Let's run the development server and see what happens. Oops, it's showing an error message, template not found at home.html. It means there is no template in home.html file. Let's find out where is the issue. And I have caught the issue. We don't have any file with the name of home.html. Instead, we have a HTML file with the name of index.html. Let's correct the file name. Save the changes and run again. Here we go, our simple website is working fine. And showing the content of index.html file. So friends, this is how we can create a simple app in Django. This app can render HTML file. I am going to repeat all the steps once again, so you can understand all the steps in an easy way. First, register your app in settings.py installed app settings. Second, register your app.urls in URL pattern. In the app views file, create a function which render and display your HTML file content. And in the app urls.py file, call the function from views.py file in order to display the content of HTML file to the user. Let's move forward and add more pages in our template directory like About Us, Contact Us, and Services. So stay tuned. So friends, we have created a simple home page. Now it's time to add the new pages in our website. I have added 3 new pages with the name of About Us, Contact Us, and Services. To navigate between the pages, I have created the navigation menu in every page. In the view.py file, I have a defined separate function to render the specific page. For example, About function will render the aboutus.html page and return to the front end. And Contact function will render and return the contactus.html page, and same like Services page does. After creating all the functions in views.py file, we need to add the path and URL patterns in order to call the specific function to load the related page. Let's run this project. We have a navigation menu on top. You can load any page by clicking on the menu item associated with this page. So friends, this is how we can create a simple website using Django framework. In the next video, we'll dive into advanced Django features to build even more powerful web pages. Get ready to unleash the full potential of Django.